Hello, everyone, and welcome to Surrogacy Australia's webinar. I'm your host, Anna Mackay, and my co-host, Beck from Bacchus Marsh, is a single mum to 5 and has been a surrogate twice. She birthed a girl in 2016 and a boy this year in 2024 for two different sets of IPs, each of whom were previously strangers. She is an admin for the national Facebook group and organises catch-ups locally in Melbourne. So come and hear Beck's observations from her nearly 10 years in the surrogacy community, what it promises and what it's really like. So welcome, Beck. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Beck, you've been in the community for many, many years. You've had two surrogacy journeys, and in between you've had two keeper children.
Yep.
But take us back to the beginning. Why did you want to be a surrogate in the first place, and how did you find your IPs?
So I'm going to put a disclaimer first. I wouldn't promote this as the way that anyone should probably dive into surrogacy, but this is the way that I run my life. So it worked for me. So at the time I had 3 of my own kids, like you said, and two actually, and I was heavily pregnant with my third, probably like 8 months. Sorry, about 8 months pregnant I was, I think. And at the time I was married, so I said, you know what, I can probably go again. And at the time he said, nah, not for me, which is okay. And I just said, that's all right, I'll have someone else's. And so I joined the Australian surrogacy community, which some crazy person back in the day thought that I would be a great help in the admin team, and I'm still there, and hopefully I'm helping somewhat. I'm not as good as some others that are on there, but that's okay.
I've got this feeling back when I was part of that team. I wonder if we were part of the team that tapped you on the shoulder. I can't remember now.
You might have, because I feel like you taught me the ropes.
Yes.
And then you might have stepped away.
Yes, that rings a bell. Yes.
So that's many moons ago. And I love the idea that I'm paying it forward somehow. Even if it's just declining scam, requests or whatever it is, I'm still somehow helping. Yes. So anyway, so I joined that community, and I met my first IPs on that community. So that's actually both kind of through that community. So it's given me a lot. And therefore also I find it really important to give back. Hence I'm still around 9 years on. So met some IPs from Canberra, so interstate to me because I'm in Victoria. Chatted on there, organised a catch up.
Can I ask? So you read their post or something. Was there something in particular that drew you to that set of IPs? And were you looking specifically for hetero couples or just whoever you felt the click with?
Nah, whoever I felt the click with, to be fair. And I didn't read their post. Again, this worked for me, but it's not probably ideal for everybody. At the same time that I joined the community, I joined the surrogates only page. And back then there wasn't kind of that waiting period in the community to join. So then I get in, and like most newbies, I had the rose-colored glasses on. I feel like you're handed those as soon as you join the community, and really pumped to be helping someone, yada, yada, want to get moving. So I did a post in the surrogates only page, and a surrogate reached out to me and said she was chatting to these IPs from Canberra and got up to her medical, I believe it was, and realised that her health issues weren't compatible, basically, and she had to deal with her own stuff. So she was not able to go the whole, to go even to transfer and things like that. Maybe I would want to chat to them, because then essentially they're kind of left with no one. Anyway, so then she gave me their details. She passed my details to them, and then it was, I can't remember a million years ago, but I feel like I would have reached out to them, I would say, and then we started that conversation. And then we organised a catch up in Melbourne where they came. So obviously we could meet. That was about 3 months roughly. from memory, from when we started talking to when I first met them.
Yeah.
And this was going to be their first child. And they had 4 embryos. And and I don't think it was long after I met them in Melbourne that I offered to be a surrogate. So probably getting to know them for me probably was under 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then from memory,
yeah,
then the next part of that journey, the counselling, the legals, the IVF, was really quick for your team, and then getting to the point of embryo transfer. Is that right?
So she was born in the March of 2016, which would have meant that transfer happened approximately June of 15, if we're working backwards correctly. And I reckon it was about the start of 15.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, probably like 6 months, like within 6 months, we had it all done, ready to go. Yep.
So from the time you first reached out to them till the time Sorry Bub was born was under 2 years.
Would have been under 2 years. Yep.
Yes. And I remember at the time, you've often been my measuring stick for the quickest journey.
I feel bad when you say that, and you've said it multiple times. Probably like it's on the faster side, absolutely. I feel like though, since you and I have been around for a long time now, that I'm not the fastest.
No, agreed. And we've also talked about sometimes if you know, and things fall into place, and if it does work, first embryo transfer too. And sometimes you get lucky. Even though there might be bumps along the way, it just still works. And there's no guarantee that you could take a year chatting and getting to know each other and it's still going to necessarily be any better.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know. I was very fortunate that embryo transfer stuck the first time. So we were super fortunate that way. And like you said in your spiel, I personally had never experienced IVF for my own children. So come the time that we are transferring, I had the soon-to-be Nana in the waiting room with my third keeper at the time, because obviously he was born by that time, and he was 11 months old. And so she's entertaining him in the waiting room. So anyway, we were just really fortunate, which is, great for them. Great for me too, to be fair.
Good. And so then you went on to have that baby, getting pregnant with.
Sorry, I've just noticed I'm really dark all of a sudden.
Yeah, you got to be mum.
And I've got a kid in the background. Can you flick the light on, please? This one for me. Thank you. Sorry, Anna. Sorry, everyone else. No. Oh, hello. There we go.
Oh, good.
So sorry.
I'm going to go to sharing photos now.
Yeah,
and
cool.
You've got a photo here of the wedding from those first IPs, and you're heavily pregnant. And so does that mean that you got pregnant with surrogate bub around the time your third child was turning 1?
Yeah, so he was 11 months old and I fell pregnant with surrogate bub. Yep.
Yes, amazing.
Yep. So then the lady, the ginormous goddess on the left is Sandy. So she's the egg donor.
Yes.
And so I was 20 weeks pregnant here. It was like smack in the middle, halfway for us. And this was the first time that I had met Sandy. And obviously when I saw her, I thought, dear Lord, this baby is going to be a giant. And I'm so tiny, so I'm not sure how this is going to work. Really quickly, can I tell you a funny story? So obviously at the wedding, the IPs are, the center of attention naturally. And so I go to the wedding with my then husband, and I stuck to Sandy like glue because, we have something in common. 1, we knew no one, and 2, I shared a part of her essentially. So it was a very surreal feeling walking into the wedding and obviously being the fattest person there, but everyone knowing me and I don't know anyone.
Yes.
And, so people are coming up saying, oh, you're doing such an amazing thing, Beck, and isn't it so lovely? And I am an IF, they're so fortunate, blah, 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 all those lovely things. And I'm thinking, I don't know who you are.
Yes.
And one of the bridesmaids actually from this wedding went on, because she met me, because she got to quiz me like a second time around when I flew back to Canberra for the baby shower, sparked her interest, and she actually became a surrogate twice for siblings.
Yes, that's Sarah, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. But there you go. So yes, your story sparked,
Sparked something.
it did.
Yeah.
And so then I think we've got another photo here of Surrey Bub once she's born, but also one of my favourite photos in surrogacy, because people have to look twice to understand what's happening in this photo. So the black and white photo is you pregnant, yes?
Yes. I love that one. Who doesn't love getting their kid off? Me. And there I am in front of a camera, and it's been on Facebook a lot. That's unfortunate. But yeah, anyway, so that's me obviously on the left, pre-baby, and then that's I am with baby. Essentially those timeline progress pregnancy shots that people get. I just thought it would be a really nice keepsake. And I'm mad for photos, just FYI. That's one of my hobbies, not necessarily taking them, but forcing my children to have them taken and keep them. And so I knew nothing about this.
Ah.
So I did a maternity shot photo shoot, hence I did it, and I teed up the photographer. I bought the IPs like a newborn photo shoot, essentially like as a present. And I'd worded Steve, the photographer, up that, I want to do this kind of before and after. And ideally we both wear black underwear, because the black and white shot, it's just going to look so amazing. This is in my mind. And so I got there, and I don't think she was as clearly not as keen maybe as I was to get my full kit off. Hence the tank top. Not that it matters. I think the photo still represents exactly what it should. Yes. And it just happened to be that the way I was looking over my shoulder with no one standing next to me when I had mine, and same for her looking down, it almost looks like we're actually looking at one another. So
absolutely. It's a beautiful photo. It really sums up surrogacy. It's like, here's the pregnant belly with the baby, and now here's baby on the outside in mum's arms.
Where the baby belongs. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a beautiful photo. So
yeah.
Great vision that you had there.
And then the one on the right is at PO, at parentage order. So Bub there is approximately 5 months old.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't know. I wanted to share that because I think it just, again, so that was the, just really quickly, sorry, I'm very scattery, go back and forth. So because they were interstate, one of my non-negotiables was that they stayed anywhere in Victoria, and they chose the suburb right next to mine. So that's convenient, for 1 week. Just so that obviously I could bond with baby and see them as a family. And also my kids could see baby, because naturally they've seen me, get bigger and bigger and bigger for 9 months. And at the time, my husband and I worked super duper hard with my kids. So I had a daughter who was 5.5, who went from kinder to school. So like during the pregnancy, and I had a 3-year-old son and an almost 1-year-old child. So, and plus boys, they don't really care so much. So it was more about my daughter, girls being so inquisitive and yada, yada. So my husband at the time and I had worked super hard, almost like brainwashing, I guess, at, this is not a sibling, and you don't call this baby a brother or a sister, and you don't refer to them as your cousin, and blah, blah, blah. And also because they live interstate, there's a high chance that we won't see the baby often or ever again. So it was more just to prepare her for that. So anyway, they stayed for a week, which was really lovely. I saw them 6 out of 7 days. And then this parentage order was the first time I'd seen Surrey Bub since birth, basically. Yeah.
So was that how you anticipated how much you would see them, or you thought it might be more, like during the pregnancy and then post-birth?
So I think during pregnancy, I would have assumed that I would have seen them more. I mean, again, it is what it is. And at the time, I would get a bit doom and gloom about it because I wanted to see them more. I tried my best at the times that we did catch up, given that they lived interstate. So there was only so much I could share of the pregnancy, over the phone.
Yeah.
And so I tried my best at the time when I did see them to encourage IM to, touch my tummy and hope that baby would move at that moment. And, I would always try my best to update them the best I could about baby's activity inside, and, if I was having any cravings, and try to make them feel as included as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine I would have wanted to see them all the time, given that it was their baby. It was never my baby. And I would like to think if I was in IM's shoes that I wouldn't feel like I missed out on the pregnancy, given that you're not carrying it yourself. So, of course, I would have loved to see them more often. But again, we were interstate couples. So, naturally you have the challenge of time off work, cost of travel, cost of accommodation, all those things essentially come into play.
Definitely. So then ultimately, so that was journey 1.
Yeah.
And then life goes on a little bit. They start to, settle into their life. And then you then got pregnant with keeper number 4.
Yeah. So then I saw them obviously then, and Bubs was about 5 months old. And then I saw them, they came to Melbourne at some point within the first year of Bub's life. So I saw them then, physically. And then I went to Bub's first birthday. And this is kind of a reason why the photos are so old, because then COVID hit and all these sorts of things. So I haven't seen them really in person for Bubs is no longer a bub, and she is 8 years old, and I probably haven't seen them in person for about 6 years.
Yeah,
so
wow.
Yeah, so we talk every now and then. Again, life happens, but we are still in contact, which I'm super fortunate for, because like you say, they could cut us whenever they want to, essentially.
When you say talk, do you mean like physically on the phone or sending messages and photos?
No, so sending messages. So we have a group chat, all 4 of us. So Sandy, the egg donor, myself, and both IPs. We have a group chat, so we'll check in, every now and then. It's quite sporadic.
Yes.
And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that there's some kind of contact. At the 8 years ago, it wasn't the ideal that I wanted, and maybe even 5 years ago it wasn't the ideal that I wanted, but now 8 years on, I'm grateful that it's something.
Yes, and that sounds like a bit like a classic surrogate, feeling grateful for what you get, and it's perhaps isn't the ideal. So then that probably leads us nicely into talking about the fact that you went again. So in between journey 1 and 2, you had a 5th child, a keeper, so the little girl there. So in this photo that we're looking at here is you with your 5 children. And then marriage also fell apart.
Yeah.
But you still had an itch, I guess, to be one more time. So
yeah. So it's I would never say never to anything. And after the first time, I always felt like I would definitely go again, and be a surrogate, obviously went again myself, but go again as a surrogate. And it was certainly never to erase the first journey, to better the first journey, never. It's I'm very big in my life, one, obviously, of being a role model, a decent one, hopefully, to my children, especially now that it's just me and them. And I'm very big on paying it forward, whatever it might be. It's chucking a few dollars at a busker. It's,
Yeah.
I don't know, buying a sandwich for a homeless person. It's,
Well, you work at the kids' canteen at their school, don't you?
no, not now. So my, so I did.
That's right. Your dad knew you were doing that, but that
Yeah.
changed ownership.
So the school closed that canteen in term 2. So I had been running it for 2 years. I worked there 3 years ago for 1 year with a different company, and then my dad and I created our own company, and we took it over for 2 years. And then since term 3, I have been working as an LS/ES, so an integration aid, whatever label you put on that, at a high school. So that's interesting, but extremely low socioeconomics families, some unfortunate stuff that just, it breaks me daily, and you just want to scoop them up, bring them home and cook them burnt toast. But, so
that's a classic surrogate. Where do we find surrogates? They're often the givers, aren't they?
Always. So, that for me, working there, I really love it, and I think I'm half decent at it, so that's okay. And get along with the people I work with, which is also awesome. But, again, given just the demographic and all that's at the school, essentially that's another way for me to pay it forward, to try and hopefully make a difference with those kids.
Yes.
So, us surrogates, we are givers, and we walk around all the time with our cup half empty. And the way that it gets filled is seeing other people happy, I think. It's certainly for me, at the end of the day, I am just craving my recliner so I can crash on the couch till 1 a.m. and drag myself to bed, but knowing that my kids have had a good day, or, my youngest daughter has drawn me a picture, or my 7-year-old, gives me a cuddle and says, "You're the best mum ever." Like that's perfect to me.
Yeah.
So so this photo is obviously of my second journey, and it was how far am I in that? I'm probably like 34 weeks in that.
Right.
And to me,
take us back to the beginning of the second journey then, when you'd been still part of the community, and so clearly you hadn't ruled out going again. And so
never.
And I knew in our chats over the years, from time to time, it was that you could therefore keep your eye out for IPs that might spark your interest. So this is this hetero couple had one child, and so they needed somebody to help them have a sibling, which was you. Do you remember what drew you to the second set of IPs? And then also, did you have plans for what changes you wanted to make in Journey 2?
Yeah, I think we all get a bit tough, and we all get a bit over keen, and think definitely the first one had XYZ that maybe let us down, maybe we didn't even do, so I'm going to implement them the second time, or I'm going to make them my non-negotiables. So you mentioned before, I am the person in the background for Melbourne that helps organise a super dear friend of mine. We organise dinners. Not probably as regularly as we should, but again, life happens, and whatever. And so I met IM at 2 dinners in Melbourne, actually. She is a part of the community. So again, we're circling back to how the community has given back to me so much. And but anyway, I actually physically met her at 2 dinners. The first one, we were just kind of chatting on and off. Sorry. Perfect timing. So sorry. So we were just kind of chatting on and off, and whatever, and that's fine. And we both live in Victoria, so that's a bonus. Also live quite close to each other, probably within an hour's drive. Okay. And so that also was ideal for me. So from my first journey to my second, again, it was never about bettering it. But for me, I really felt like I had lived and learnt lessons like that I could have done better, that maybe I had hoped the IPs would, bring to the table more, whatever. So again, I was open to hetero or same sex. That didn't bother me, or single. That nothing like that ever bothered me. I wasn't tunnel visioned onto a local journey. So when the IP and the surrogate live in the same state, generally they're considered a local journey, or a team, sorry. So I wasn't tunnel visioned on that. However, obviously when we got chatting and it seemed quite free flowing, and, again, we live relatively close, yada, yada. She was able to birth her son, biologically, naturally, all that sort of thing. And then unfortunately, suffered a form of cancer afterwards, and then due to the treatment needed a surrogate to expand the family. So it was easy, and I was like, yeah, this could be all right. And then we happened to see each other at the next dinner, so that wasn't like, it wasn't a teed up plan or anything like that. And just before the second dinner, if my memory serves me, I got a messenger, from a mum from a mother's group 10 years prior, because by this time my 1-year-old from their first journey was almost 10. And so a mum from his mother's group randomly messaged me, and we don't talk, right? We're friends on Facebook and like every now and then a post, but nothing other than that. And she messaged me and said, oh, my hairdresser has a client who is looking for a surrogate. Can you be one, or can you point them in the right direction? And I was like, okay, happy for you to pass on my number via the hairdresser, and, maybe I can help out again, like, and I'm listing, there's the community, there's Surrogacy Australia, yada, 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 if they need embryos, because I wasn't aware if they had eggs or not eggs, whatever. Anyway, so it turns out that I am message me, I believe, and then we clicked very quickly in text message that we had met at the dinner, at the first dinner, the first time we met.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, you're this person, and we have this mutual hairdressing client that goes to the same hairdresser as you. Like, it's just so bizarre how the world works.
Yeah. It's sometimes nice to have those little funny stories to connect you. It's almost like there's a bit of a background check going on, that people know the same
absolutely
people.
So then the next round of dinner was soon after our text messages had started, and obviously I was saying, there's the community, and she at the time was like, yeah, I'm already in that, and all this stuff. And then I said, yeah, happy to have a chat, at the dinner, all that, blah 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 blah. And and then we just kind of continued chatting from the second round of the dinner. And then, soon after that, I went and I to their house, actually, and I took some of my kids and, met her son, met her husband. Sorry.
Oh, good.
And and all things like that. I think surrogacy it can be very full on. So if anyone's listening and they're brand new, it can be really full on if you match with strangers, because for both of mine and from what I've heard of, and witnessed other journeys, is that I haven't spoken to these people before, and then all of a sudden I'm going to speak to them daily for 9 months. It's a lot. And I don't, as most people would, I don't talk to my best friend daily.
No.
So it can be a lot, and it can be daunting, and the expectation of us to IPs and the expectation that IPs have of us is that we're going to be super open about our lives. And sometimes you might just not want to.
Yeah.
And that's okay that you don't want to. I think it should be fine. that you don't want to necessarily share everything. Obviously, pregnancy related, when that time comes, you know, you share naturally because it's not your pregnancy.
Well, it's your pregnancy, but not your baby.
Yeah, but you know, it's just there's other aspects. Like, for example, you know, if your marriage is falling apart, or you know, your kids are having issues at school, or I don't know, or you're just having a crappy time at your own work, like, I think it should be okay that you say, nah, I don't want to talk about it.
Yes,
Um,
yeah,
I,
that's good advice. You're sharing a lot, but it doesn't have to be everything.
I don't think so. I think as a surrogate, you're sharing enough of yourself.
Yes. Yep, that's some good advice. And for
Yes.
both sides of the team too. It's finding that line between not hiding anything, but
Yeah.
you don't have to give the full details for
No,
everything.
no, absolutely. And like you say, absolutely. Same with IPs. They don't have to tell us the ins and outs of, you know, their daily eating routine. You know, like it's fine. We share, both sides should share the main things, the important things, and the things that are going to progress your team and progress your connection and friendship, because that's what everyone aims to do. That's what I aim to do, was to have a team that I would say to people, yeah, I carried for friends of mine, rather than saying, oh yeah, I was a surrogate. Because,
Interesting.
because to me, when you say, yeah, I was a surrogate twice, for example, it's very businesslike. And to me, it doesn't have that human connection necessarily.
Mm.
Whereas I feel like if you say, yeah, I carried for my friends, you know, and you look at photos and you feel that you can go, oh, there's my friends and they have baby, you know, they have a baby. You know, I feel like your team has reached that next level. And as a surrogate, all of us have seen different teams get to that level. And, you know, and I know that when you and I started, you know, everyone used to bang on about this, you know, gold standard, and in
Yeah.
this, you know, you would hear of, oh, I'm in a surrogacy high after giving birth. And, you know, and I know for me, I was chasing that mythical creature
Yeah.
that I don't think, if I'm honest, I think the minority get that mystical creature and they feel that. And it's actually the majority of journeys that don't feel that.
Agreed.
Not necessarily feel like, never regret, like personally, I don't regret anything. I'm so grateful that both sets of IPs entrusted me to carry their baby, to help expand their family, finish their family, you know, help nurture, you know, the biggest gift of life. I'm so grateful for that, and I never would regret that, and I don't take that for granted. Absolutely not. And I don't take for granted how fortunate I am that I was able to offer that.
Yeah.
But
That's such a fascinating, it's such a surrogate, like IPs listening be like, what? The surrogate's grateful. We're the ones that are grateful. But yeah, it's good that you can find that level of peace. I've still got quite a few questions to ask you, but
sorry,
don't need to be sorry. This is
you need to
wonderful.
wind me up. I just go on.
This is great. Let's keep going. We'll finish off the photos of this journey, but I'd like to, yeah, I've got plenty to ask you. So then,
Oh God, I think I'm such a model. Oh, I'm
yeah.
so ridiculous.
No, but it's I did nude pregnancy photos of my surrobub because I'm like this is probably my last one. So these
I'm so full of myself. It's a joke.
no, I did
Oh,
the exact same pose. It's beautiful because it's your body and the pregnant bodies are beautiful. I've got this feeling you told me these were done in the hospital on the day
yeah,
of birth. Is that
yep,
right?
yep,
Yes.
absolutely, yep. So this one was
Oh,
sorry, that one was the first one, like in labor.
yeah.
We all just did our rat tests. They were just about to hook me up, and I was like, oh, quick, get my gear off, take a photo. I actually posted this one on my Facebook page almost straight after birth. Obviously, no like baby announcement, because again, that's not my place to do that. I did that down the track once IPs had done that, because it's their news to share, not mine. But I live in a small town and people love to gossip. And also now that I'm single,
Mhm.
God knows what the wheel of gossip would say. So I thought better nip that in the bud. Hence, I did a post down the track. But this one, I did a post and it was essentially thanking the old girl for holding up over 7 pregnancies and, you know, nurturing 7 lives
Yes.
and just everything that she had given. And I had worked very hard for that gut 7 times round.
Yep. Yeah. Well, yeah, our bodies are amazing things. 7 babies you've carried in birth.
Yeah.
And then you had a surrogate friend with you on the day there as your support person. That's right?
Yeah. Yep. So a very near and dear, and God love her. And again, I guess this is a comparison from first to second. You know, first time around, naturally, I had my ex-husband, and given all marriages, but you know, we were together for a very long time. So during labor, of all of our keeper children, he was amazing. He was, you know, he was the best person I could have had there in that moment with me. Because he knew me. He just, you know, he knew when I needed a drink. He knew when I needed to squeeze his hand, nearly break his fingers in pain, and you know, all those things that in those moments when emotions are running very high, you don't either have the vocabulary nor the energy nor the patience to verbalize. So I remember soon after that nudie Rudy photo that you just showed, I was, you know, getting strapped in, whatever, and I had a bit of a sook, and my dear friend, yeah, she just hugged me and she said, "It's okay, it's okay, it's okay." And I was upset. One, I certainly wasn't mourning my ex-husband, God no, but mourning that I don't know if I had the strength to birth a child by myself.
Yeah.
To not have that person, you know, that I'd had 6 times, sorry, including first sorry above, I'd had 6 times around.
Yes.
And I
And so
didn't know if I could do that by myself.
but you weren't alone.
No, hence the photo on the right. It shows obviously I am, my friend, me, and it shows one of the beautiful midwives that we had. We probably over the time, because this is going to sound horrendous because I even think so, but you know, 7th baby and labor went for about 22 hours, and and you know, but you know how they love to put on the discharge paper, oh, it only lasted for, you know, 2.5 because that's the active bit.
Yes.
And you think, oh, I did all the legwork before that. Anyway, so yeah, we probably had about 5 midwives across the whole time. So beautiful. And I think the photo on the right, similar to the photos before that you showed of my whole family and my second journey's family, it shows that surrogacy takes a village, I think. So the photo on the right to me represents, you know, girl power, you know, empowering women, coming together all for the same purpose, you know, just essentially holding the space for one another.
Definitely. Yep. Definitely some beautiful photos. And I'm glad you had somebody to take the photos.
I'm so grateful. So that was one of my non-negotiables, which was perfect that the IPs agreed. One of my non-negotiables was to have a birth photographer, because you always miss those moments. So in my first journey, I told my ex-husband, you be the paparazzi, you be the photographer and capture those moments for the IPs. You know, like, don't worry about me, I'll be fine. Don't hold my hands, I'm right. I know what I'm doing. And so he captured some photos. Like the first photo he captured for the first journey is of them, both IM and IF, with baby as soon as she came out.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a photo they wouldn't have had, because we just back then, 8 years ago, birth photographers weren't really a thing, to be fair. So you know, we didn't have that. So this time around I really wanted one for selfishly for myself, of course, but also for the IPs to have those moments and to look back, and it does bring back a lot of memories, actually.
Good.
And then this photo that you're showing is me with Bub, obviously. He is a week old, and this So I stayed excuse me, stayed one night in hospital, and obviously saw him the day that he was born, and then I saw him the next day that I was leaving hospital. He also left it the same day as me. So we both only had one night in hospital. Fortunately, we only needed that. And then this was the first time we met. So he's a week old in this photo.
Right. Was that planned to have that time apart, or just worked out that way with family and things?
No, it certainly wasn't planned. So again, one of my life lessons, one of my lessons that I thought I'd learned from first to second was that counselling throughout the pregnancy would be a great idea, because I didn't do that the first time round. So first time round we did, the compulsory counselling at the start and all that sort of thing. And, they give you all the horrible what ifs, like what if baby isn't compatible with life? What if your life is at risk? What if? And I'll circle back and touch on that slightly in a minute. But so then we had counselling in the first journey. We had that at the start, and then we had counselling 9 months after birth.
Right.
And that was it.
Yes. So nothing ongoing during pregnancy.
Nah, because who needs that first time round is what we're all thinking, clearly.
I learned from you all. So did you have what was it different second journey then, Beth?
Thank God you did some research. So yeah, definitely different. So second journey, we obviously again did the mandatory stuff at the start. Then we had an agreement that we would do one per one per trimester. Yeah. With the option of having more if we needed, individual if we needed. Yeah. So from memory, we did group counselling first trimester and third. I think we skipped second only because, and this sounds silly, but second kind of creeped up and all of a sudden was finished.
Okay.
Life happens and then you're like, oh crap, we're through trimester 2 already.
Yeah.
Anyway, so but essentially most of the pregnancy, I'm going to say from trimester 2 all the way to post-birth, even after bubs, I had an individual counselling session, I think 2 days post-birth. So I had fortnightly individual counselling.
Good. From when to when?
From basically second trimester.
Yeah.
All the way to post for about 8 weeks.
Good. I mean, I had it up to a year, but I had postnatal depression. Yeah. So, but even having some regular ones post-birth, that's really good. Glad to hear that happened.
I loved it. I thought that it was just so valuable and it really helped me. And, God love counsellors. You go in and you think you've got your shit together and then you realise, no, I really don't. So yes. You always find you've got something to say. So yes. It was just really helpful. Again, I'm me, I know, but for all the people out there that don't necessarily know who I am, I'm not a person that ever feels sorry for myself, and I certainly don't ever rely on people, or I definitely try not to. A lot of stuff has happened, personally with my health, which has affected me long term and all that stuff. So I have grown to be quite independent, and I'm not a person, I would feel like I'm quite a strong person. So naturally there were moments throughout the journey that challenged me, of course, but I never once was like, oh, this is hard because I'm single, or, anything like that. It was definitely just, it's hard because it's hard, or it's hard because you're trying to manage a pregnancy that has so many fingers in the pregnancy pie that doesn't naturally happen.
Mm.
And, and again, being a surrogate, I would like to think one of the prerequisites is that you obviously are selfless and you ooze empathy. And I would really like to think that I am like that. But sometimes you just don't have the energy to be mindful of everyone's emotions, or you just say something and it comes out or it's misinterpreted.
Mm.
And I think the unintentional misinterprets are the hardest because naturally they're unintentional. So, and especially as pregnancy goes on and you get into your 30s and, you're really close, and then, especially if things happen that you're not anticipating. For example, me, I was super duper 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 set on going to at least 40 weeks. So with all of my keeper babies, none were born before 40 and 4.
Yeah, right.
Most of mine were born at 41 and something. So so I was set on not before 40. I just had this thing. And Surro Bub 1 was born I was induced at 38 and 3,
Mm-hmm.
which was obviously my earliest, and my body did not appreciate that.
Mm.
and I never, because I never had not because of, but I didn't have counseling to kind of talk that through after her birth. So just kind of like midwife's second time around, and the OB, because we ended up engaging a private OB. So I had one of them second time round, and from about 20 something to and I ended up getting induced at 38 and 3. What are the chances? So I had him for like that 18 weeks roughly. And originally my IPs said, would you like to, they did give me the option, would you like to engage one? And I thought, I've never had one, and it sounds real wanky to me and a waste of money, in fairness. Even though they're paying, I was still like, it's such a waste of money. I don't mind going public and seeing randos every time. But obviously in hindsight, it was really lovely to have the same person, that continuity. You don't have to relay your whole entire story every single time. You don't have to have this awkward, so I'm the surrogate, I'm the weird one, I'm doing this weirdo thing, let's move on. Like he just knows every time he sees you.
Yeah.
And he was so lovely, so lovely. So in hindsight, it was great. It was great to have him. At the time, I was skeptical. But he was saying, oh, you've probably suffered a bit of trauma from the first birth, only because it was earlier than what my body naturally goes. And so therefore I was like, that's okay, I'm not going to go before 40. My body clearly can go to 40, so I'm going to go to 40. And this was a back and forth conversation for majority of that 18 weeks that we had the OB with myself and the IPs. They were apprehensive and nervous that they would miss the birth. We live just under about 40 minutes apart, but my fifth keeper baby, sixth pregnancy, fifth keeper baby, was 36 minutes.
Right.
So they were a bit nervous that they would miss it. And I kept saying, I can't break my waters. Like, that's just not a talent of mine. I've never been able to do it, unfortunately. It can't be that hard, but I still can't do it.
No.
Tempted to go again just to try. Not really. No. Kidding. And then, so I was saying, you're not gonna miss it, because I can't shoot out the baby until my water's broken, and I can't break them naturally. So, you're going to be fine. Anyway, hence the chat about getting an obstetrician came along, because I wasn't able to birth at my local hospital, because they told me that I was too heavy and I had too many children. So it was a really lovely conversation. So then we were a bit up in arms about where we were going to go. And then, so we got the obstetrician kind of to have some, certainty, all that stuff. And then the ongoing conversation between all four of us was that, did I have to go before 40 weeks? Could I go to 40 weeks? Blah, blah, blah. I compromised, and happily compromised, but I agreed to be induced on the dot of 40 weeks.
Yes.
Because happy to be induced so you won't miss the labour. I've been in and birth, sorry. I've been induced before, so I'm not like anti that. Some women are a bit about it, but I'm not. That's okay. But I said I have to get to 40 weeks. Also, for some reason in my mind, to me, if I personally don't get to 40 weeks, I haven't done pregnancy properly. I feel like I've cheated everybody. So it's all about the number. So anyway, so this was a back and forth conversation, yada, 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 yada. As pregnancy progressed, my hypertension increased, and therefore I had to get induced before 40 weeks. As to how much before, that was also up for negotiation. So I said, could I at least get to 39 and a half, like just a couple of days early? Yes. I think that was a goer for about a week until the next appointment. And then anyway, it very quickly progressed to getting induced at 30. It turned out 38 and 3, which was exactly the same as first time round. So then again, the safety of bubs is my priority. It's higher than the priority I have on my own life. So
I don't know if that's something we should advocate for, my dear, because, you know, you have 5 of your own children, and for, you know, new surrogates listening, that no, it's okay to put your health first, because there's many children that rely on you.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I can understand that you've been, you know, charged with carrying this gift and you want to do it as well as you can.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm not advocating that. No, I'm just saying this is the way that I go. So that was okay. And then, yeah, so it turned out 38 and 3, we walked in and we did that nudie Rudy photo and we started the process. Unfortunately, he decided to stick his chin out and not press down. So therefore, labour went forever and a day. And I swear my obstetrician was asleep at one point in the corner. So I roused on him and I was sucking on gas like no man's business, because normally that's all I need. If anything, sometimes I've gone with nothing because I think I'm such a hero. So anyway, and then he wasn't progressing, yada yada. So and naturally I'm getting knackered. So they not talked me into it. They suggested I get an epidural because they said I may have needed a cesarean, and I have never had one. So I said, nah, you're not going to gut me like a fish. Nah. And you know, the obstetrician obviously was like, maybe, and I was like, maybe not, maybe no, maybe no. So anyway, I said I'll have an epi, and we'll stick with that. Naturally, for anyone like myself who hasn't had an epi, who knew that it slowed down the contractions? So I went from 5 centimeters back to 4 centimeters dilated, and then had to slowly progress up. However, I was living my best life. I couldn't feel a thing. I don't know why I have never had one 6 times previous. It was the best. And anyway, then we fast forward, yada, yada, we all get a bit of a nap, which is great. And then we progress up. He comes and checks me in the morning of the next day. He gives me a deadline to be fully dilated or have a cesarean, which I agree upon, all the while knowing that I won't need that second option. And got to the deadline and he said, yeah, ready to go. And then within half an hour, and so a little bit before about 2 hours before he said good to go, they started counting my active labour, because I couldn't feel anything, but on the paperwork that I was strapped to the monitors with, it was saying that, you know, contractions were increasing, all that stuff. So they said, right, active labours from now. He gave me the deadline. We got to the deadline and he said, good to go. Half an hour later, baby out.
Well done.
And then that night, me and my dear friend, my parents came to visit and bought us KFC for dinner.
Oh, happy days.
Who doesn't love a bit of greasy chicken? So yeah, it all went well.
Well done. Well done. we'll just finish off these photos. I think we've probably just got one more to go
Okay.
of your team. Is that,
Yeah.
I guess, just before you leave hospital?
It is just before, yes, it is just before we leave hospital. It is the, is it the day? No, yeah, that's the next day. So those two, so obviously it's, you know, the IPs holding Bubs with the big brother. He's so proud as punch. And then the two midwives on the left are the ones that, you know, help deliver Bub and, you know, cut the cord and check on him and check his throat because he was a bit congested and stuff. So they took him out to the corridor straight after birth.
Yeah.
So they were the two, yeah, mostly with their hands amongst it.
Mm.
So lovely. And they, you know, again after birth and after we all cleaned up, whatever, you know, both of them are crying and giving us all cuddles. And, you know, we had lots of questions from all five of the midwife team throughout the labour, and even the birth photographer actually, because she's considering being a surrogate. So you know, lots of conversations arise from all these sorts of things. You know, how do you do it? Is it difficult? Where do you go? You know, all that education stuff. So
look at you continuing to educate people, like even just
you're welcome.
Right? I'll just do a little bit of housekeeping, and I'll just say to people listening, you're welcome to leave the webinar when you need, but we'll just finish up for a little bit longer. I mean, there's still so many things I could ask you, Beck.
So sorry, I ramble way too much.
Oh, it's lovely though. So did your kids then meet Surrobub sometime soon after he was born?
So soon, yeah. It depends what you say is soon. I think my kids met him maybe he was, I think, about 3 weeks old, and they met him. Yep. So surrogacy, I don't know, you know, idolizing surrogacy, you know, the promise or the, you know, the vision that people have is that you're going to, both families are almost going to, you know, blend into one, and we're going to see each other frequently, and local journeys are going to, you know, you're physically going to see each other more than interstate journeys. And, you know, the kids are almost going to grow up not as siblings, but, you know, they're kind of going to grow up together, or the surrogate children are going to ask about Surrobub. And so I was prepared for that. I was like, yeah, I'm here for that. And my kids don't. And it's, you know, and it's nothing negative. They just kind of, I mean, they're kids, so that it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, you know, for them. And I think that's okay. I think that it's okay that they don't. I don't think it has to have this negative spin on it, you know, because it's not. It's nothing like that. Every now and then, you know, especially my 7-year-old and, you know, my 5-year-old girl, you know, she'll jiggle my guts and she'll say, "You've still got a baby in there," and I'll say, "No." Yeah, so polite, especially when she does it in public. But you know, and sometimes Hendrix, who's 7, will ask about, you know, the older brother because they're similar ages. You know, and that's lovely. And, you know, we're actually in the process at the second of trying to organise a catch up when the stars align in crazy season, because our parentage order was just approved a couple of weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm off the hook. Yeah, so, but, you know, I think, again, that's just something that like, to me, it promised that it was going to be this and this, and it doesn't turn out that way. You know, we're local, and my first ones were interstate, and yes, the local ones, you know, had groceries delivered for me, and, you know, they cooked me some meals, and we did catch up, and, you know, they came to a lot more appointments than of my first journey with the interstate IPs, naturally, because, you know, distance allows. But as in contact afterwards, or the vision that we all had, you know, it's actually quite similar, the journeys, I think. You know, like, my kids certainly don't ask about Surrobub 1, who's 8.
Yeah.
You know, and or anything like that. And again, it's not a negative thing. I think, just out of sight, out of mind. I'm
Yeah.
sure if I wasn't in their line of vision, they probably wouldn't even ask about me. So,
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, they're busy lives. Yeah. Doing some quick questions here. You
oh
mentioned,
God. Okay, go.
okay, you mentioned, doing journey 1 and thinking about journey 2 about some non-negotiables. I think I've got from you there, birth photographer was one, having some ongoing counselling. Were there any other non-negotiables that were part of journey 2, and did they happen?
I don't have many non-negotiables. One of my non-negotiables, which carried through from 1 to 2, was no termination. So I wouldn't do that. Journey 1, we both agreed upon that. Journey 2, they would terminate, but they had a very extreme line, for lack of a better word, that they would draw.
Yeah.
And I obviously agreed that that was okay.
Sure.
For me personally, there is zero line. So like never, ever, ever, ever would I. But for me, because theirs was so extreme, and the chances of that occurring is like so minute. I was okay with that.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to happen in journey 2 that you tried to happen and didn't happen?
I really think one of the importance is, again, surrogacy takes a village. It takes lots of people, and surrogates aren't, we're not just these people at home. Like, I'm not just this mum sitting on this couch, or this lady, I should say, sitting on this couch. I have kids and I work full time and, try and run a somewhat organized household. And, we have 7 basketball trainings a week, and we have 5 basketball games a week, and I don't drive for medical reasons. So we do a lot of this either with carpooling or on public transport. And, plus we have obviously friends, and, kids have friends, and also they have a parent that lives at a separate house, so they share their time, and, all this stuff. And I think it's important that all of this is taken into account. So I think it's important that the families of surrogates and the families of IPs get to know each other, and not, we're just, I don't know how else to say it, but we're just, it's not just me giving my time for 9 months, and it's not just me potentially being bedridden during that 9 months, or it's not just me having, X amount of time off work after a baby. I had 1 week for journey 1 off work, and I had 3 weeks for journey 2 by choice. I felt guilty to have any more time off work. One, I was fortunate health-wise, I didn't need to. But I felt guilty because I didn't actually have a baby that I was looking after.
Sure.
Yeah. So, but to meet the IP's parents who are becoming grandparents, maybe for the first time, maybe for the 10th time, would be lovely. To put a name to a face, and to also be a part of the pregnancy, and all that sort of thing. I know for my first journey, the one set of grandparents were first timers.
Yes.
So that was super lovely, and the very unexpectedly, but extremely cherished, for the first Mother's Day that came soon after, because she was March and obviously Mother's Day is May. I got a Pandora charm from the new Nana, which has pictures of people holding hands on it, and so the charm actually itself is called Family Bond or something like that. And she gave me a handwritten letter, card, which I love, rather than just 2 from her. Anyway, it was this novel thing inside, and essentially thanking me for giving her a grandmother day.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I just think, oh, that's so sweet.
It is. It's those things for surrogates which mean a lot, those handwritten notes where people go to a bit of time and effort. So yes, I think
And,
you're right. Integrating the families and getting to know each other and spending time there to see that you're not just making parents, you're making grandparents and aunts and uncles. So sometimes it is nice to meet them and preferably see them again after too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you just think that's what I do it for.
Yes.
That they're the moments that you go, yeah, this is why I do it. This is why I could go again.
Yep.
And it's not ever like my, for example, my first IPs, again, it's 8 years on. So they don't naturally say every time we chat in our messenger group, they don't every time say, oh, we're so grateful.
Yeah.
But I know that they're grateful, and that's okay. Like I don't need to hear that all the time. Soon after birth, again, hormones for us are running high, and and we do like hearing that. But again, where I am, I know you are, we all are, we're the people in the background for a reason, because we don't like being the center of attention. We don't want to be put on a pedestal. We're just like the little Chinaman in the background getting stuff done. And but it is nice to hear that acknowledgement. And as time goes on, you instead of hearing it, you more feel that it's there.
Yeah.
Like with my first ones, I can feel that it's there. Even my most recent journey, I can feel with them that it's there. They send photos and I mean, they do say often how grateful they are, but even sending certain photos or little videos or something, I can tell, depending what it is, I can tell, yeah, I just know that they're grateful. They don't have to say it.
Well, that leads me on to, let's do second to last question here.
Okay, sorry.
That's beautiful, Beck. This is great. What was something that either you can think of each set of IPs or just generally something that they did that made you feel safe and something that made you feel appreciated?
Oh, that's a toughie.
I guess the appreciated is what you're saying. It's then keeping you in contact with the odd photo and update to keep you in their lives. It's those ongoing things. Was there anything during pregnancy that helped you feel safe or appreciated?
There's never just one thing, I don't think. I think that's why I'm struggling. And I don't want it to seem like there's nothing, but it's, so my most recent journey, for example, they had parent to daughter for me has just, no, not parent. Yes, it has just happened, but that's not the story I want to tell you. The story I want to tell you is baby turned 6 months, and in the mail, I got a handwritten letter it was from IM. So, but it was how grateful they are as a family of 4, to be a family of 4, to be watching baby grow up. Without me, that wouldn't be a family of 4. And it had a little passport photo, because I've been overseas. So it had a photo with it. And that was so unexpected and just so beautiful, because I appreciate those, as we all do. I appreciate those things much more. Those, it's almost off the cuff, although I'm sure she was thinking about it for ages. But it's the thing that obviously she sat down, she's written a whole 2 pages. So, she's taken some time out of her day, or, while he's napping or whatever that might be. And then she's gone to the effort of actually going to the post office and posting it. And, it's more than just a text message that says edit at the top, because I had a typo. And, it's,
I think that's perfect. It's those things.
They're the things.
And it's that they paused in their busy lives to do something. And because we took 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 9 months to do something for them, and the years, leading up to it. So yes, it is those things that didn't cost money, they cost some time.
Yeah.
That means something to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I could, I'm just me personally, and whether it's surrogacy or not, I could care less about money. So I don't care if you send me flowers. I don't care if you get me groceries delivered. Yes, it's lovely. Yes, it's appreciated. But you make me some spag bowl, and the next time you see me, you slip it in my freezer without me even knowing, or you post me a letter on a milestone, or you send me a voice clip message just to say, hey, it's a Thursday. Hope you're having a good day.
Yeah,
That's what I love.
showing that they're still your friend too. Yes.
That's right. And they follow up all the time, like I am all the time, will be like, oh, how's so and so going at school? Last time we spoke, they were having a bit of a rough trot, what's happening now? Or, where are they on the basketball ladder? Things like that. And that, again, that matters to me, because you think, oh, you've actually taken notice of what I do in my life or what my children do in their lives. And
Yes.
it's not all about surrogacy. I think that's what makes the difference. That's probably what I was struggling to say earlier and articulate terribly, is, to say, yeah, I was a surrogate twice, is that you never progressed. You never took, neither party, because no one's at fault, both parties together never took the time to progress and take notice and step outside surrogacy.
Yes.
You don't have to talk about it all the time. Yes, you have to talk about it a lot, especially when you're like going through pregnancy, because you have to update people, and you have to have blood tests all the bloody time and all this stuff. But there's more to life than just having your baby.
When they care about the things that we care about, like
Yeah.
our kids, that means
That
the world.
yeah, and that makes a friendship, and then that becomes, yeah, I carried my friend's baby.
Yeah.
Like, even, the whole conversation changes, because you don't even actually use the word surrogacy or surrogate in it. You've carried, a baby for friends, or you were a surrogate twice, for example. And it's interesting for me, given that my journeys were so far apart. So again, 8 years from birth to birth. And the first time around that I would say, oh yeah, I was a surrogate, people are like, oh my God, how amazing. Or, like just all these questions would flow, because it was obviously back then quite taboo still. And then it's just interesting. This goes to, your education and the just kind of more education that's, available out there so freely, is this time around. Like, for example, I've started this new job in term 3. So in July, I started this new job. I've obviously already given birth. And I've mentioned, not heaps of times, but like a handful of times in random conversations, I've just said, oh yeah, I did surrogacy twice, or somehow it's come up about like essentially giving birth or whatever. And I don't just randomly say that, just FYI. And and it's nothing to my workmates, and it's not because they're all surrogates. It's just obviously because surrogacy in general in Australia is more openly spoken about. It's not as taboo if you are a surrogate, or if you need a surrogate. It's just more like, oh yeah, totally, because that's what my neighbor did, or yeah, my cousin has to look for one, or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And that's hopefully like how IVF is now another normal way to have a family. That's our vision, isn't it?
Yeah.
Surrogacy is just another normal thing to do.
Yeah, that's right. And I remember with the most recent journey, I had a failed transfer. So my first one was failed, and I took that, as most of us surrogates do. And I had heard of, women before me, take it really hard that, they had a failed transfer and maybe needed a couple of months off, kind of, the matching dating surrogacy bubble. And I personally never really got that, because, again, with all of my keeper babies, I've had them, conceived naturally. And so to my knowledge, I've never miscarried. And with Bub 1, she stuck first time. So then come this time, and 8 years on, just under 8 years on, and yes, I'm older, whatever, but still I was like, oh, how hard could this be? You know what I mean? Like, you do have that naivety that, like, worked the first time last time, why wouldn't it this time?
Yeah.
And you've had all these lining scans, and you've had the doctor, check the lining and go, your uterus can do some more work, and you think, settle down with that language. But
Yes.
I was like, don't be saying that when the IPs are in the room. God, the ideas they're going to get. But and then you have the transfer, and then it doesn't work, and you really do feel like, which is again what I had heard but not understood, is really like, what is wrong with me? What am I doing that didn't make it work, because it worked the first time. And especially because I've had keeper babies, like, everything has always been fine.
Yes.
And I know that IVF is just one of those things that it can work, or it might not. And I know that. But in the moment, you really feel like, what have I fucked up? What have I done that I should have been more careful about?
And we all know it's nothing, but like when you're still learning, even 8 years later, there's still things to
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
learn.
I'm no expert. Absolutely. Even after this time, there's things that I go, oh, I would have done that differently, either myself, or I would have expected differently of them, or, or maybe I would have compromised on this, or I would have pushed for this, or, I wish they had have asked me about this, or, whatever it might be. I'm always learning. All of us are. I'm sure even you in, your 1,000 webinars that you've done, each co-host probably gives you some kind of takeaway.
Yes. Well, this for you tonight.
I didn't think of that, or
absolutely
a different way of looking at it. And I remember years ago at the conferences, some one of the wise people, again before us, always said there should always be one takeaway. You should always have at least one takeaway from something. And again, like you, I've done a few seminars, like Melbourne-based seminars, and like now doing this with you. And I've done another podcast for another surrogate/lawyer. And I always think there has to be a takeaway. Normally my takeaway, but you touched on it before, so I'm trying not to double up on info. But my takeaway is trust. That this is all just built on trust. That they trust us to hand over baby. And please, someone, whoever is listening to this webinar, please come up with a better term, and I will jump on board and I will cheerlead your new term. I hate that term. Hate that term. Because it's not handing over, because we're just giving the baby back to where they belong.
Yeah.
And, because it's not ours to give. So it's not ours to hand over. I hate that anyway. That's just a bed bug of mine. But, it is all based on trust. It's, they obviously, like you said, they trust that we are going to bake their baby properly, and it's going to come out beautiful and slimy and all that goodness that babies are. And we trust that they're going to take the baby no matter what, and love that baby no matter what. And then second layer on that, because surrogacy is like onions, there's always layers. And then second layer on that is that we trust that they're going to keep us in their lives. Again, mine, for example, and again, we've been around, so we've heard many journey stories and stuff, but and aftermaths. But mine, for example, my first journey, it's probably classed as minimal contact. We sporadically chat on our group message, and that's what it is. That's the extent of it. And this journey, like, this is quite fresh, this one, so I'm not sure how all this is going to pan out at the second. However, I definitely know, because we spoke about it a lot in counselling during pregnancy, and also privately, the amount of contact we would have. And I had spoken to another surrogate during pregnancy, who apparently had organised with her IPs back in, whatever year it was that she was pregnant, that they would set dates to catch up on. And then if it got close to that date and she, as the surrogate post-birth, didn't feel like she needed that catch up, she could cancel. Because for a surrogate, we don't ask anything ever. We will just struggle forever. And we just expect everyone to read between lines, and that's just unfortunately the way that it is. Yes. And so I feel potentially it's easier to cancel things than make things, or ask for a catch up. Yes. At least if you have it set and you're like, oh, actually today doesn't suit me, you could cancel, rather than I desperately need one yesterday.
Yes.
So this was one of the things. So we obviously had spoken about, post birth, we would catch up, like multiple times, I think we said like 2 or 3 times in the first couple of weeks for, like, say, the first month, and then it would slowly go to once a week for maybe a month or two, and then it would go to fortnightly, and then just naturally progress to a normal friendship, which might be once a month, or it might be once every 2 months, however the natural cycle falls. And obviously that all sounds great in theory. And again, it's no one's fault. It just, life happens, and we haven't stuck to that. And that's just, what it is. But, we're still in very regular contact. We probably text or send messages of voices or photos, whatever, at least once a week.
Yeah.
If not more, so it's just,
it is what it is at the moment.
It is what it is. And I think that, sorry, I know you're wanting to wrap up, and I've got a kid in the background trying to flash me a note of some type, is that I think it's all well and good to have non-negotiables, and I absolutely 1000% surrogates out there, you need non-negotiables, and you need not to compromise all the time. Compromising, I think, should come from both sides evenly. However, I feel like with your non-negotiables, there also has to be a touch of flexibility. Some things that, for example, I spoke about not breastfeeding. That was my choice. I did not want to direct feed. I didn't do it for first bub, and I didn't want to do it for this bub. And that was purely based because breastfeeding doesn't come naturally to me, and I struggled with all 5 of my children. All the extra pumping and the cookies and the this and the that and the vitamins and whatever, like none of that worked for me. I end up using donor milk from my best friend to feed my kids, my own children. So selfishly, and also second time round, as in birthing earlier this year, I now have 5 kids. So I don't really even have the time, which sounds so selfish, and I hate that cliche, but I don't really even have the time to be sitting on the couch pumping when I've got 5.
Yes.
So I didn't want to, and that was okay. But then a conversation down the track with midwives came up that what about, and it was obviously a what if the placenta wasn't coming. And again, stories that both myself and IM had read about, research, heard directly, whatever, was that lots of surrogates had the first skin to skin, which helped the placenta birth, just because the hormones are running and, that all that yummy stuff, whatever, and the goodness of skin. And when that came up, it was a bit like, oh, okay, so now we will talk about this, and hopefully there'll be a point of flexibility, because up until that point, I am really wanted first skin to skin, and I said, totally fine. I don't want skin to skin. Again, I didn't do this with first bub, and it's, it was the same with breastfeeding too. I didn't do skin to skin or breastfeeding with her, and I'm not going to do it with this bub.
Yeah.
I know my undoing, and if I have skin to skin, I'm still going to hand over baby, but it's going to be tougher for me.
Right. Yep.
And I just know that that's one of my limitations, because I'm going to feel baby, warm and gooey, and the way that babies are when they're born.
Yeah.
And I just knew that wasn't right for me to do that.
Yeah.
But then when the conversation came up with the midwife, and again, this has gone from a non-negotiable. So at the very start, at the dinners, IM and I are talking about this, and I'm saying, yeah, one of my things, no way am I having first skin to skin. And she's saying, oh, cool, because I want first skin to skin. So in her mind, she's going, tick, that's, one of the things that we match on. And then down the track, when it's brought up to us by medical staff, then obviously we had a conversation about, but what if?
Yeah.
And this is all I'm trying to say to whoever's listening is, it's fine to have your non-negotiables, but there has to be a middle ground where everyone is okay to have flexibility if you need to.
And did you both come into agreement on that? If the
we did. So it was definitely a back and forth, long, conversation, even like still in labour conversation.
Yeah.
But yes, we found middle ground that yes, it would be okay if needed, but only absolutely if it was needed. And and you're probably like in all, you're probably talking about a max of 5 minutes. It's it's not like you're talking about for the rest of their life.
No.
So for me to have had that skin to skin first off would have been okay, would have probably been uncomfortable for her, and I can appreciate that. But if it was necessary, it would have happened.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it didn't need to. So
Sure.
then I get to bask in her having it.
Sure. And watch that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And again, it's captured on film, so lucky for me, I get to look back.
That's true. So many wonderful insights, Beck. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have you got any last bits of parting advice that you would either give Beck at the beginning, or things that you're like, oh, I wanted to make sure I said something? Is there anything extra you'd like to add?
Oh God, I'll go for days.
Or don't.
Well, don't. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, let's just cap it off. No, I just I just want to say to everybody, I wish you all the very best, and I am cheering for absolutely everyone. And surrogacy is great that that people are willing to help others. Like, that's what I love about it the most, and that's why I'm still hanging around a bit like a toolie, I feel like. And and I go to the dinners and I love the conferences, because as much as anything, I've made friends amongst surrogates, and I've made friends amongst other IPs who I've now been able to watch become parents, or fall, and I've tried to help catch, amongst other people, and formed friendships that go outside this bubble world. That most times, I don't even talk about surrogacy with those people. We're talking about day-to-day stuff. We're talking about going to concerts, or, musicals, or, traveling overseas, or, whatever it is, getting boob jobs because after 7 babies, like gravity takes over, whatever. So it's so lovely what it can bring for everybody. And I genuinely, I'm not trying to scare anyone off, and please don't jump into it like I did. That probably is one of my hot tips, but it worked for me. It suited the way that I run my life. You're much more of a researcher than I, so that obviously suited your life, but like you say, unfortunately, it doesn't matter how quickly you jump into that pool. It doesn't matter how much research you do before dipping your toes in. That's not a guarantee. And I genuinely wish everyone the most love and the biggest baby cuddles and poo explosions when you get there. And I can't wait to hopefully still be around and see you all get there. I don't know how long I'll be around. It'll just depend how my life goes. Would I do it again? Probably not. Not that anyone's asking me, but probably not. 2 times for 2 sets of strangers was challenging, because they're strangers, I guess, and you go from not talking to talking every day, and you're having to share every inch of your life, and then you join forever. And especially if you have those downfalls during pregnancy or after pregnancy. After pregnancy, yes, is the baby, of course. Yes, that makes sense, Beck. And I'm still speaking proper English, just. And if it doesn't go ideal, if it doesn't get that mystical high of a creature that we hear about, that's kind of the thing you got to think of, because then you're joined forever. However, nothing will prepare you for that at the start. There's no guarantee, safe proof. I can't think of that word, so that's not the right word, but there's no guarantee that you will get on that high at the end. There's no guarantee you'll reach that gold standard. There's no guarantee it'll fall to shit and you'll become estranged. Like, there's just no guarantee. That's the way life is. It's all based on trust. And we need to just pay it forward, try and put yourself in people's shoes. You know, hats off to all the IPs that outsource their pregnancy, because I couldn't do it.
Yeah, the hard gig being IPs.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Absolutely.
There's challenges on both ends, absolutely. And I think, you know, especially, and again, even in outside of surrogacy per se, but the world we live in, we all just need to rally and lift each other up and support each other, I think, whether it's surrogacy, whether it's other stuff, you know, work, school, you know, whatever it is.
That's beautiful.
Just come together. But anyway, sorry for my ramble, whoever's still listening. Sorry, Anna, you have so much editing now to do. But thank you so much for having me on. I really do appreciate the opportunity. Love a chat naturally. And so thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for sharing your time and your stories. And
anytime.
Well, not anytime, but like
anytime when it's like after bedtime. Maybe we'll reschedule this next time.
No, we've done a great job here. Thank you. Well, I'll sum it up there and say thank you everyone for joining us. We hope you found it useful. The next webinar is in a fortnight and that'll be the last one for the year. If you still have lots of unanswered questions or would like them answered privately, consider joining SASS to be connected with a mentor to have them answered in a one-on-one setting. I like to say, let's change the world one conversation at a time so we can educate more people about how surrogacy works in Australia. It can be very lonely and overwhelming in the beginning, but there is plenty of support in the village if you go looking for it. And as the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. And in the case of surrogacy, it takes a village to make a child. So welcome to the village, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Beck.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. We did it.
Yay.
Yay. Okay, good night. Off to be mum to those 5 and answer all the notes.
Oh, yay, I know. There's a trail.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.